Hey, audit friends and family, listen, there's this old saying that no good deed goes unpunished. And basically what this means is oftentimes good people suffer and they suffer a lot. But today we're going to flip it a little bit. A bad deed might leave you homeless. All right, who's with me today? Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right, welcome friends to episode number 135 of the Friday Fraudster. One bad deed will leave you homeless. So just remember, this is the only live podcast where we talk about fraud. And if you head over to my website, thatauditguy.com, you can start getting CPEs just for listening to little old me. Well, and the guest too, obviously. While I have your attention, I want to invite you to the next episode of Audit Bites, which is going to be this Tuesday. It won't be at 11:15 a.m. We're moving it up an hour. It's going to be at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. But you see the topic right there on the screen. The audit profession is in peril. Listen, I just came back from a chapter doing one of my sessions on internal audit talent management. It's always an interesting one. So if you have trouble finding good talent nowadays, you might want to tune in to this podcast episode because we're going to tell you exactly why the profession is in peril. All right. Without further ado, let's bring on our guests for today. You may have seen them before. Thomas, Jim, how's it going, gentlemen?
Hi, how are you?
All right, so why don't
Happy International Women's Day, gentlemen.
Wait, is that today? I thought it was yesterday.
It's today. I think. Maybe it was yesterday. I get my LinkedIn feeds confused.
I don't know. I had to call out Robert about our all-female cast here.
Oh, man. Okay. So why don't you all introduce yourselves to the audience? We got quite a few people here watching and listening. Jim, who are you?
My name is Jim Grimes. I've been in the internal audit profession, hate to admit, but over 25 years. Compliance, internal audit for a long time. I've worked for some large publicly traded companies. I've been a partner at a top 50 accounting firm and also been chief audit executive at publicly traded companies. So been doing this a long time. I'm happy to be here.
So in other words, Jim's been around the block a few times. If you have any questions about internal auditing, you probably want to call Jim. Right. Thomas, who are you?
Hey, I'm Thomas Mullenix. I run Revision Management Consulting, and I've been in the industry for 17, 18 years now. I've been running my own business for a little over 6, and I've got a new internal audit software coming in the next week or two called IA Stream. So be on the lookout for it. And I'm always happy to be here with Robert and to give him a hard time as much as I can.
Oh, now this sounds exciting about the new audit software. I'm sure a lot of people will be waiting for that. Now, guys, let me ask you all a question. You guys own homes, right?
Yep.
The process for buying a home is pretty difficult, right? You got to have good credit. You got to have some money to put down. And then you just dream about the day that you actually pay the house off, right?
Yeah, that's the dream, right?
Yeah, that's the dream.
You also have to sign a stack of papers about 3 inches thick, promise your firstborn child, all of that.
Yeah, it's a complicated process and painful sometimes too. It just takes so long.
Yeah.
It is. It's very painful when you buy a home. But then when you pay it off, you can jump up and down for joy because you never have to make another payment again, right?
Right. That's the dream.
Except for taxes.
Yeah. Taxes and insurance.
Taxes and insurance. Oh,
you want to start in the military for a bit, and then hi Sheree, how you doing?
Taxes and insurance. So you mean you can pay $250,000, $500,000 for a home over 15, 20, 25, 30 years and still not have the thing paid off because you still have to pay taxes and insurance.
Exactly. Yep.
That's pretty interesting.
Well, here in Texas, if you are, I don't know if you retire from the military, or if you have to be disabled from the military, but I know you have certain statuses where you are exempt from your property taxes. So there are instances in Texas. So
yeah, I've heard some states doing that
in Texas.
Yeah, there are a lot of states that do that, but you still have to pay that insurance. But here's the deal. What happens if you don't pay those taxes?
They'll put a lien on your house. More than likely.
Yep. You keep going home hoping that you can open the door and that you don't have it all sealed up or you can't get in.
Oh yeah, they put a lien on your house. That is so very true. And here's what they end up doing. So let's just say if your taxes are $6,000 for the year, and if you don't pay your taxes, even if the house is paid off, they take your home, they pay those $6,000 back, and then they sell your home.
Yeah.
Now, when they sell your home, a lot of people don't know this, but you're entitled to that difference between whatever was the amount that you owed and whatever they sold your home for. But even when you pay off your home, you can still lose your home.
Yeah. I just read an article about somebody who had a lien from 10, 15 years ago, and they thought it was taken care of, and they got a notice that they were being evicted because of this lien, and all they wanted was like $6,000. So it can be pretty nasty sometimes. The banks do mean things.
Oh, wow. Now that is insane.
Yeah.
All right, for our people on LinkedIn, some of you have sent me a few messages saying that you're trying to comment and you can't comment, and you should be used to this speech by now. If you're on the app, sometimes Linky is finicky when it comes to the app and you may not be able to comment. But if you like, you can head over to YouTube because YouTube is, well, people are commenting over there on YouTube. And I can actually show the YouTube comments over here for the audience on LinkedIn. But for some reason, the app sometimes gives us problems. Don't know why. It's just happening like that. Oftentimes, all you need to do is update it. But if you just joined us, the conversation for today is we're talking about home ownership and what happens when you pay your home off. A lot of people think that they're free and clear and never have to pay another dime on it again, but you do have to pay taxes and insurance. If you don't pay those taxes and insurance, your home will be taken away by your local government because they need to satisfy the tax debt that they have that you have with them. You guys ever paid off a home before?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Nope, not yet. I look forward to the day, but nope, not yet.
Wow. You ever transferred ownership in a home to someone else?
Not had to do that yet.
Ooh. That happens sometimes too. Like if a relative wants to leave you a home and they want to give it to you before they pass away, oftentimes you can just transfer ownership. By the way, anybody out there that has a home that they just want to give away, feel free to give it to me. I am homeless, so looking for a good home.
As long as it's in Texas, though, right?
I don't care where it is.
Oh, sorry.
If it's free, I'll be there.
Careful now. I know the location we're talking about in today's story. I don't know if I'd want a free house out there.
You know, I might even take a free house there. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into it. So, the director of home ownership programs for a Detroit nonprofit was recently arrested and accused of conspiring with others to steal more than 30 properties across Wayne County. Most of them now, Wayne County, Detroit is in Wayne County. And this scheme was targeting low income people in the Wayne County area. Those low income people were facing potential tax foreclosure. So, in other words, the homes were paid off, but they did not or could not pay the taxes. Anything you guys want to say about that before we dive in a little bit more?
I think they were also people who were having trouble making their payments as well. So they were people who were challenged with home ownership in general. They were looking to this agency for help, and that's what they help people with to keep through that challenging time.
Yeah, yeah. And so you could.
This is whenever you sent me this story, Robert, I was disgusted, to be honest. Like most of this stuff, you can, oh, the boss was terrible, so I could see it, or oh, they were just trying to help out their son, so I can. This is sickening, is what this was. I keep reading it over and over, thinking there's got to be more to it than what there is. But yeah, I don't want to say I look forward to digging into the details, but in a way I do, just to see how wrong this situation is.
Yeah, because in theory, you could say that they were doing a good deed. It is a nonprofit set up to help people who are struggling. So let's talk about what they did. Today we're just gonna jump right in because there's no real way that I can set this up nicely, other than the questions that I just asked. Because like Thomas said, it is kind of sickening. It made me really, really sad. And I hope that I'm not getting numb to listening to some of these stories or becoming jaded, because some of them are real bad and end up getting worse and worse as you look into them. So, okay. So in the complaint, they named 3 people as being involved in this fraud scheme. One of them was a property tax prevention counselor at the nonprofit who was also a notary public. Another one was somebody at the Wayne County Treasurer's office. And then a third person has been identified as another notary who actually notarized some documents. Oh heck, let's just get right into what she did. So what she did was she created what's called a quit claim deed, and she used that to transfer ownership in the property from the homeowners to another company that she owned. And then after that, they took that property and sold it for a profit, and then deposited that profit into a company that she owned. Now, what do you guys think about that? How in the world can you do that?
Yeah, it seems, if I'm stepping back looking for a root cause, there's some serious internal control weaknesses there from a process of getting a quick claim deed completed. It seemed so simple that it seemed like there should be some extra checkpoints in place to validate with the actual homeowner that this is an actual transaction. But I think since they were insiders to the register, to the office that was managing this, it kind of made it easy for them because they had people inside on the treasurer's office there in Wayne County.
Yeah, what do you think, Thomas?
It's hard to stop collusion. When you have multiple, people working together, it's so hard to stop collusion. But I can't believe that 3 people would have no problem, going after people who are already struggling as it is, and have no problem doing so, and doing it 30 different times. A house is personal. You still money, you can replace the money a lot of times, right? But a house is a home. And again, it's just like I said, it kind of sickens me. But the fact that collusion took place, and then yeah, there's multiple internal controls that clearly were not properly functioning. I hope this nonprofit really spends a lot of time and effort to fix what they've done, because I can't understand it. I can't. This one has actually gotten to me, Robert. I can honestly say.
Hey, you really had
You
a
know,
couple
you,
of victims there too, because you had the person who owned the house, and then
Yep.
you had those people who actually bought the house thinking it was something they were purchasing. So
Yeah.
they were out their money. The other homeowner that actually owned the house is in peril as well. So there's all kinds of problems caused by this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you make a good point, Thomas, when you say a house is personal. You could replace money, but oftentimes you can't replace the home. So for everyone listening, let's just take a step back and let's talk about what a quit claim deed is. It is a legal document that's used to transfer any interest or claim that a person has in a property to another person. Now, it also does not guarantee that the person transferring the property actually owns that property or has a right to it. It just simply means that they are giving up their right to the property. So let me give you an analogy. Let's pretend that Thomas and I are playing on the playground, and we're kids. And we're playing on the playground together, and Jim is there too. And I find a toy, and I'm not really sure who the toy belongs to, but at the end of the day, I say to Thomas and Jim, listen, I'm going to do a quit claim deed for this toy because I'm not sure if it's mine. However, I am giving up all of my rights to claim it and say it is mine, and I'm handing it over to you all. So it's like passing along any possible ownership to someone else without making any promises that I actually own it. That's what a quit claim deed is. Now, here's another problem with a quit claim deed, though. If there's an underlying mortgage or loan associated with whatever that property is, the ownership in the loan does not transfer. So let's just say if any of these property owners still held a bank loan, technically they don't own the home from from the standpoint of the city, but they still own that mortgage, and so they could be on the hook for paying for a home that they no longer own.
Yeah, I've heard companies advertise on the radio that they'll monitor your deeds and look for any fraudulent activity. And I've often thought about, like, how often does this really happen? Like, is this a viable business they have, or is it just a fear tactic? So apparently it happens fairly frequently. So maybe it is something that's possible.
Well, I've heard of titles and like not having a clean title on a car. I haven't heard it as much on for a house. Now, I will say there's a community in my area who is definitely a poor community, and there's not a lot of a good education there either. And there was one time where a buddy of mine and I were looking at buying property there to start a business, and because of how that community is, there's quite often where someone like Robert would go to Jim and be like, hey man, I'm thinking about moving, you want to buy that my house? They'll say yes, and they never actually go through the process of transferring title. So trying to buy property in this community is very risky because you don't know who actually owns the title, and you could try to buy it, pay somebody for it, and 5 generations ago it was legally sold somewhere else, and and they actually have paperwork, so it's theirs, and now you're defrauded out of property just because there was lack of paper trail. So I have heard of that kind of thing happening with titles, but most of the time I hear this more on cars, and someone tried to sell a stolen car or something and not having a title, or have there not being a clean title.
Yeah. So now you guys said you didn't realize it was as widespread. Apparently, it is extremely big, so big that in Wayne County, they have a deed fraud task force to combat this problem. And the way that this particular fraud scheme was caught was that a rash of complaints came in to the deed fraud task force. And they're saying that in Wayne County, they are a national leader in combating this new crime wave, which kind of makes sense because if you think about it, for the most part, they're doing it in a lot of communities where there are older people who have paid off their homes. It's a whole lot easier to do it to that community when you have people who the homes are already paid off and they may be in trouble with taxes anyway. So yeah, it's a big thing. And apparently there is a huge task force in the Wayne County / Detroit area designed to combat this problem and help people out. But they had a slew of complaints, and that is how the fraud was caught. But let's talk about what's kind of supposed to happen and how they were able to actually pull this off. So in theory, what happens is when you want to do a quit claim deed, you have to go to a notary public. And that notary has their seal and their stamp of approval saying that they have been licensed by the state to actually verify the authenticity of, well, not the authenticity of the document, sorry, the legitimacy of the person actually signing the documents. I almost said that wrong. And so what happens is when you do a quit claim deed, you face a notary and you say to the notary, here's the document I want you to notarize. I'm going to sign my signature on it saying that I am me. And that person is going to check your documentation to make sure you are who you say you are, whether that's your driver's license, passport, etc. You then take that document and you give it to someone else, typically the in-person, at the end of the chain. So you would take it to the city agency that's responsible for actually filing it. So what they ended up doing was they had someone who was a notary, and that person actually, quote unquote, notarized the document, and they, falsified the signature of the homeowner.
Yeah, one of the things in here, it says it was they transferred it to non-existent interim owners. So there was obviously no validation of the person who it's being deeded to, because there were non-existent interim owners. It was just the insider notary was the key to this whole thing.
Yep.
Have you ever thought about some of the crimes that are committed and you're like, how do you think you're going to get away with that? Someone tries to steal the Mona Lisa and you're like, how are you going to fence that? Everybody knows that painting, right? It kind of makes me think about this. You think the homeowners are not going to notice that they didn't sign a document signing over their house?
Yeah.
How did they think they were going to, get away with this for any period of time? One mayor.
Now he's freezing.
Yeah, Thomas, you froze.
30?
For real.
I mean, come on.
You know what? You just had a very passionate speech, but I think you were delivering to one person, because you actually did freeze that time. You've been freezing a little bit, but we could still hear you. But that time, oh man, you froze. But
I am having internet issues today. I'm sorry, guys.
What I've seen in all the frauds I've investigated and things over the years is they're usually not real smart. It's usually pretty simple once you figure out what they're doing. And this is the same situation. So we lost Thomas.
Yeah, and so I'll tell you what's interesting. I've done a quit claim deed once, and what was crazy was the party who wanted the quit claim deed from me emailed me and said, you need to email us signed quit claim deed. No, I don't. In order to protect, and the sad part is they got their attorney to hound me. And I know how this works. And I said, no, I'm not doing that via email. Yeah. Who is the other party that you're speaking with? Because what I'll do is I'll have a notary in front of me. I will sign it, and then I will give it to the end party in the chain. You don't give it to anyone in the middle because they can use it for nefarious purposes.
Right.
And in this particular instance, the property wasn't paid for. And so my name needed to be off of the documentation for the property as well, for the financial obligation. So you have to be very careful with quick claim deeds because it transfers the ownership interest in the property, but not the underlying financial interest.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a challenging situation. I mean, it happens a lot. I think main instances it happens like if you want to move the house to your children, you're up in years, or it's part of a divorce when you're moving the ownership from one person to another, or you want to maybe add your wife to the deed as well. So she's not currently on the title, so you can add her that way or add them that way. So I think there are obviously very good reasons to use them, but in this instance, they definitely broke the trust of the people who are going to them for help, which is the really bad part about this, is that this was an organization that people went to for help, and then they attacked them.
Yeah, well, and I think back to your point, there are essentially two victims. There is the person whose home was stolen from them, and then there's the person who purchased the home. But then
Yeah,
there's also a possible third victim, the financial institutions that gave the other party the loans to purchase the home,
yeah,
because now they got to undo and unbundle those financial transactions.
yeah. I mean, I would guess in a lot of these situations where this happens, the people say, "Well, I'm not paying for that house anymore if I don't own it. If somebody else owns it." So
Right.
I don't know how they unwind it if it's determined that the original owners say they didn't sign the quick claim deed. So how do they unwind that? There's got to
Yeah.
be a legal proceeding that goes along with that as well.
Well, and then we can take it a step further too. If the process involves going to court, now the original owners who were having tax problems to begin with end up having to spend more money to get their property back, money that they don't have. And so they probably end up losing the home anyway.
Yeah, right. It's probably just pushes them over the edge, uh,
Yeah.
which is the bad thing about this. So hopefully, and I don't see it in the information that I've looked at, what actually happened with people. And I think this was it's a new criminal complaint, so they haven't even determined yet if she's going to be charged with a felony or what level of crime she's going to be charged with. But I think obviously it'll probably be a federal fraud because she used wire transfers and moving money to different bank accounts, which automatically puts it as a federal offense. So she's in big trouble.
Yeah. She is out on $10,000 bond. And let's see. The charges were conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, aggravated identity theft, because that happened with one of them, and aggravated identity theft, because on one of them they stole someone's identity in order to execute the documentation. So yeah, those are the charges.
Yeah, it was admirable. I saw a TV interview that they had on one of the links you provided that interviewed the person who ran that agency, and he was adamant that they're going to shake this out till the very end and make it whole for all the people that were affected. So it seems like a really good agency that's trying to do good work.
Yep. And so the other thing that they're saying is, obviously, this is just a complaint, and so a complaint is only a charge. It's not it's not evidence or admission of guilt. But a trial cannot be held on felony charges in a complaint. So when the investigation is complete, a determination will be made whether to seek a felony indictment or not.
Right.
So, but yeah,
Yeah, there's sounds like a lot of agencies are involved, federal and state law enforcement. So,
yeah,
she's in big trouble, I think. Doesn't say how much though anywhere that I saw, like the dollar amount that was impacted.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself. I kept looking, trying to find the actual dollar amount and couldn't find it either. And so if you all are just joining us, what we're talking about today is how a bad deed left some people homeless. An individual created a quitclaim deed, which transferred ownership of a property to someone else, and it was done fraudulently. And then this person sold the property from up under the original and legitimate homeowners. They did it using collusion. They did it by way of collusion and by using their position of authority. They were in a nonprofit that was or is in place to help homeowners who are facing possible eviction because of unpaid taxes. I think that summarizes it up pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So thank you all for joining us this week on the Friday Fraudster. Jim, anything you want to say to the people before we go?
I think, I mean, it's just one of those bad situations where somebody took advantage of people who were in difficult situations, and it's hopefully that real justice comes to those people that are involved in that for sure.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you all.